Welcome to WhisperWoodsStories. I hope you're having a fantastic and spooky Halloween season. And to celebrate this fine holiday, I bring you the finale of the Silver Tune. I hope you enjoy. Let's begin. Above or love, hope, hate, or fear, it lives all passionless and pure. An age shall fleet like an earthly year, its years as moments shall endure. Away, away without a wing, over all through all its thought shall fly, a nameless and eternal thing, forgetting what it is to die. When coldness wraps this suffering clay. Final paragraph. Lord Byron, 1815. Finale. A growl from the depths of hell roared from the creature's throat as it charged at me. I lost sight of it as a hand slammed the door. "Hold that closed! I'm gonna lock it in," Lenny said, throwing a pack onto the ground. His voice seemed to snap me awake, and I braced the door. The wood moaned and creaked as I felt the thing ramming into it, echoing that terrible growl. The static on my phone squealed at a pitch.
Sweetling, sweetling, come and play.
"God damn it," Lenny said, throwing things from the pack to the side. "What do you have that could hold this thing?" I stammered. "Not hold it, just... here it is. Okay, listen to me, Megan. When I tell you to open the door, do it, okay?" Lenny said. Okay. Good. Now ready? 1, 2, 3. I pushed open the door, then put myself against the wall. I saw a long, spindly arm fling out with a claw. It nicked Lenny in the face before he used his device. "Get back, you asshole," he said. Lenny flung salt at the monster, but it only stared at him, uncomprehending as the crystals hit it to no effect. "Is that a fucking salt shaker?" I said incredulously. Lenny slammed the door in its face again. "Well, that usually works," he said. A thought came to me. I took the salt shaker. "When the suited man came to me at the hotel, he said that it's about intent? I could release him if it was my intent." Lenny bounced away from the door as it was shoved open by the thing. I unscrewed the cap and flung the salt with rage. The thing screamed like a shriveling spider, skin bubbling where the crystals made contact. It retreated into the room, and when it was back in the dark, Lenny pulled out something else. It was an old book of some kind. He began to read from it while the thing writhed. "Remember, focus your intent," I said. Lenny swallowed and started to read. Mors certa, hora incerta, mors Vincent omnia, or, in my words, go back to hell, you son of a bitch," Lenny said. We both watched as the thing swayed back and forth in the darkness. It careened over to the wall, bumped into one of the curtained windows, and seemed to settle, to sleep.
Horse in front.
Its voice echoed quietly. Lenny leaned in, slowly closed the door, and turned to me. "You didn't think to warn me that you had something hiding in this bedroom?" Lenny whispered furiously. He put a line of salt in front of the door. "How was I supposed to know?" I said. "What do you mean you didn't know?" "I mean that this is the first time I've seen it. I was looking for..." I paused. That's right. May. Where was May? "Can you lock this door?" Lenny said. "No, my keys don't work for some reason." "Well, this salt should seal it here, but we need to tell everyone to stay the hell away from this door." "Agreed." We walked partly down the hall. "What's the plan now?" Lenny said. "My sister is missing. I need to keep looking for her. Can you go outside and give everyone a rundown?" Sure, Lenny said. All right. If you find her out there, have Carol call me. Lenny went downstairs as I looked for May. May? Come on, now's not the time to mess around. What if that thing got her? What if she's... I stopped that thought. I didn't want to think about it. When Lenny left the house, it was too quiet. Soon I heard only the distant clicking of a clock somewhere. I came to the railing overlooking the entryway. The chandelier creaked as it gently swayed. I heard a giggle and looked up. I saw a small form in a purple coat dart up the stairs and out of sight, towards the third floor. May? Don't go up there, I said, and followed. I tentatively walked up to the third floor landing. Across the walkway was a sitting area, right in front of the central tower's flowery window. There were 2 hallways here, one to my right and one to my left. The left side was where my nightmare hall resided. Being this close made me uneasy. I heard the giggle again and saw May run down that left hallway. My stomach fell. I had seen this shit in movies before. That wasn't May. May wouldn't try to lead me to that hallway. As if to confirm my suspicion, the song started to play. I saw May, or what was pretending to be May, peek around the far corner. Her eyes were covered by the hood of her purple jacket. I tried to control my shaky breathing as the floorboards creaked below me. May giggled. She disappeared around the corner as I walked all the way to the end and stopped just before the turn. It was just on the other side of this wall. I hadn't been this close to it in years. My heartbeat pulsed in my head. Despite it being noon, the sky outside the windows seemed dark. May? I said. No response. So what if it was trying to lead me here? If May was really in trouble, I had to help her. I'll just look. Just look and it'll be fine, I thought. I peeked around the corner. The hallway ahead was the same as it had always been, a length of rot. The wallpaper peeling, the wood curdled and dry, the potted plants long dead skeletons, and the paintings of grim tales. My nightmare. Everything else I had been scared of as a child faded away with time. Heights, deep water, spiders, all worked on and conquered. This was the only thing that I couldn't shake. It made me feel so small and helpless, as if I had just been a child yesterday, and this fear still new and fresh. I saw May at the end of the hall. Her back was to me. She was still in her purple coat, staring up at the golden moon on the black door. I could hear the music muffled behind it. Every instinct told me to leave, run away, and don't look back. But how could I? I couldn't leave May. Stepping past the corner was like wading through water. Everything in my body fought to be away from here. May? Is that you? Are you all right? I said. Megan? She turned to look at me and seemed dazed. Get away from that door, okay? I said. But I'm in trouble for hurting the suited man. I took another step into the hall. The walls seemed to whisper to me. They seemed to melt in my peripheral vision. Like quicksand, the farther I went, the harder it would be to get out. May. Save May. May reached for the door handle. I froze at the thought of seeing the monster behind it. May, you were going to rake leaves with David, remember? He's waiting for you outside, I said, voice shaking. May paused. If you ask nicely, he might make your favorite dinner too. She put her hand back down and turned towards me. She rubbed her eyes. Megan? She said again. Where am I? I wanted to run down there and get her, but it was like pushing against a wall.
Magdalene.
The monster said. Its voice turned into the suited man's as it continued.
Let me out. Come and play a little song for me. My arm grows tired.
It was him. That monster behind the door was him. May, come here, I said. She watched me with confused eyes. She was falling back into that trance. It wasn't working. I took a few hyperventilated breaths and ran towards her.
Let me out, Magdalene,
the suited man said. He pounded against the black door. I scooped up May and ran. When I turned, the suited man was standing at the end of the hall, blocking our exit. I've asked you nicely so many times. I suppose if you won't free me, you will join me, he said. The door flashed open behind me. It cracked against the plaster of the wall, and I felt something grab my shoulders and ankles. I screamed and fought against it, but it pulled and pulled. I thrashed as much as I could, but it felt like I was underwater. I didn't look at the open door. I knew the fear of what I saw would be it for me. I watched my ankle turn gray as I was partly pulled into the room. I fell to the ground with May still in my arms. May, please wake up, I said through tears. Darkness seeped from the windows behind the suited man. He leaned over us like a creaking beam. Oh, Magdalene, he tisked. You should have listened to me. I offered you the world, and now you will lose it all in your foolishness. He laughed like an all-knowing god. It was a horrible sound. My legs felt like ice as I was dragged further in. That was when May's eyes opened. She reached up and grabbed the suited man's face. Another ancient cry. Purple light fluttered over the suited man like fire. He writhed like a puppet in the wind and tried to shake free. There was a burst of light, and May fell limp. Everything slowed. The darkness fled. I caught my breath. May was pale and seemed asleep. I was sitting on the end of the hall now. The black door was closed. Megan, are you with me? Carol said, standing where the suited man had been. Carol? I said. I glanced out of the hall windows. It was night. I saw a pile of leaves where David had raked them, a peeking moon in the sky and overcast clouds. Rain gently fell. I called you. I called May. I even tried to call your mom. I almost called the police until I heard you screaming up here. That's the hall right there. Don't go down there, I said. She glanced down the hall, but didn't look afraid, just worried. She seemed like she would say something, but instead pulled me up, and we walked away. Carol took me down to our rooms. I put May in her bed. Lenny caught us in the hallway. There you are. Jesus, what happened? We couldn't find you two when we came back in, he said. They both looked at me expectantly. I found May. She was in the third-floor hall. The suited man tried to take her, then me, and I sniffled and glanced at May. I told David and Carol about the thing in the master bedroom, Lenny said after a moment. Yeah, it was hard for us to believe, but Lenny showed us a glance. I guess it's relief in a way. You're not crazy after all. There really are monsters, Carol said. Where's David? I said. He was cleaning up the kitchen last I saw. I guess that's his way of taking his mind off things, Lenny said. What about Grant? I said. We never found him. All of the cars are still here, so I'm not sure where he went, Carol said. But that's enough interrogation. We can talk about it in the morning and make sure May is all right. You're about to fall over. One last thing, Lenny said. Since Grant was brought up, we should say it now. Now? Carol said. It's important, Lenny said. Is someone going to tell me what you mean? I said. Carol had a worried and afraid look as she spoke. Megan, Grant is missing. David told us about how you were talking about him and all the odd things he's been up to, and he could be gone. Remember how I told you about my friend John? I think it's the same thing going on here. One of these things got to Grant somehow. Used his face to gain your trust, to watch you. Report to the suited man, Lenny said. I thought of all of the odd things I'd seen regarding Grant. Of what David said yesterday morning. Last night I found him at your mother's bedroom door, staring at it, off-like. It started to make sense. I hadn't seen Grant much since we got here. I thought of my encounter with that thing. Something had been dripping from its mouth. What had that been? Carol placed a hand on my shoulder. I leaned against her. This was getting to be too much. Lenny went off to his room. I felt May's forehead while we sat there. It was too warm. Carol put a cool rag on her head and she seemed to settle easier. We'll check on her in the morning. If it's bad, we'll go to the hospital, Carol said. Miles will be here tomorrow. Then there will be help, I thought. I didn't know exactly how May had hurt the suited man either. These thoughts drifted as I laid in bed, but I was asleep before I knew it. Let me out, Magdalene, the suited man whispered. I will help your mother alleviate your nightmares. All of your worries will float away. So you're the one trapped behind the door, I said. The suited man snarled. I didn't want to have to do this, but it seems you will not listen. If you do not free me, I will take her too. An image of the black door flashed before me, a purple coat laying on the ground there. Let her go, I said. Let me go. I let her go. Simple, isn't it? You know what to do. Countless voices whispered in my ear until Megan! I awoke from thunder outside. Carol was shaking my shoulder too. It was still the middle of the night. The curtains were dark. Megan? It's May. Something's wrong. I got up right away. May laid in her bed, pale, eyes open but sightless. She wheezed slow breaths. May? May? I waved my hand in front of her, nudged her shoulder, but I already knew what was going on. This was all going too fast. He has her. The fucking suited man has her. Somehow, I said. Carol nodded. He wants you to play the song, she said. Carol and I watched May. What do we do? I said. If we try to bring her to the hospital, I don't know what will happen. This Miles guy knows his business, right? We should get Lenny to talk to him, Carol said. Already did, Lenny said, looking in. Miles is almost here. We just have to hold out. Am I supposed to twiddle my thumbs until then? What if she needs a doctor? I said. We can't leave this house. If we do, it might damage her for good. Any cops we bring here will just be fodder for those monsters too, Lenny said. Let me talk to Miles, I said. Fine. It's the first button on speed dial. Lenny handed the phone over. I hit the speed dial. It rang for a little while. Make it quick. We're about to land, Miles said. This is Megan Odlin, I said. I heard a sigh. do you want? I'm sorry that you're so put out, but that thing has my sister now. You went up to the hall, didn't you? If I didn't, she'd be gone for good, I said. So you're telling me that you've already interacted with those things, and now they have your sister? Please, we need you here. I heard that feminine voice in the background again. Miles, we need to get there now, they said. Fine. We might be able to get there tonight. We just have to be careful. If headquarters finds us, we're as good as dead. Okay. Thank you. One thing. Whatever you do until I arrive, do not interact with those things again. And you can't leave the property. That's one reason they escaped their little cave in the first place. Just hang tight. We'll be there soon. What did he say? Lenny asked. He'll try to hurry and don't interact with those things. That seems like a given. Should David and I brew some coffee then? Lenny said. Yeah, that's probably a good idea, I said. I sat on May's bed and held her hand. We sat with her for an hour or so, letting the time idly pass. The rain had picked up considerably by then. This is all so crazy, Carol said. Yeah. It feels like we've been here for so long, but we were just home a few days ago. I'm sorry that I didn't know about all of this. I wish I could have helped you from the beginning, she said. If anyone should be sorry, it's me. I should have told you sooner. I should have been there when May needed me. It's okay. We'll figure it out. I'll protect you too, no matter what. Things feel like they've changed forever. I hope we can come back from this. Live a normal life, I said. The doorbell again. Carol and I exchanged a glance and left May's room. Had Miles gotten here within an hour? We went down to the hall and saw David and Grant below, walking into the lobby. It might be Miles. We should open it, Lenny said. David went to open the door as Carol and I made it downstairs. There were two people outside, hidden in the shadows. An odd smell wafted in. Can we help you? David said. He looked closer. Grant? One of them was Grant. He looked sickly pale. The second man was decayed, heavier set with thinning hair, and wore a security uniform. One of his eyes was cloudy and scarred. That's... Lenny said, as Grant moved to the light. We all froze. The light revealed that his other half was gone, chewed off, leaving only bloody mulch where his arm had been. Too bad I didn't read that flash drive, Lenny? I might have learned to smile more, the second man said. Shut that door! It's the... Grant flung his arm forward. It stretched from him like a fleshy cord and pierced David. He grunted in pain as Grant smiled.
Grant was a delicious sweetling,
it said. David, no! I said. Lenny tried to shut the door, but Grant and John charged the rest of the way inside to send it flying open. David went flying off to the side as Grant flung him. Carol acted quicker than me, and before Grant, or whatever this thing was, could reach us, she picked up a coat rack and swung. It cracked in half when it hit the thing's head, and caused its neck to twist sharply. Lenny pulled out a gun and aimed at John. You had a gun this whole time? I shouted. Yeah, well, guns aren't very useful against these things, Lenny said. It doesn't hurt to start shooting, Carol said. Lenny's hand shook as he stared at John. John cackled and crept towards Lenny. Little Johnny tried his best at the museum. He fired his little gun too, and yet he could not leave a scratch behind, John said. John's back cracked and bubbled until a burst of fleshy limbs pushed out like 1,000 spiders. The body of John became limp as a head pulled out from the mass of limbs, dangling John's body like a puppet. It was at least 10 feet tall now, and knocked over furniture and other objects as it moved. Carol pushed me out of the way as Grant lunged. Carol used a broken half of the coat rack to hold him back as his mouth snapped like a rabid dog. Lenny hadn't been able to shoot and was pinned by its tendrils. I looked between the two. Lenny's gun slid from his grip. "Help, Lenny! Quick!" Carol said. The thing above Lenny opened its mouth wide. Saliva dripped onto his face. I grabbed the gun. "Megan!" Carol stammered. I moved the gun between the both of them. Where do you shoot a thing that has that much body? I stared at Lenny as he screamed. That's when I saw someone in a purple raincoat. May. She stood next to me, pointing up at the chandelier. "Drop that, and go for the eye, okay?" she said. May held out her hand, and purple butterflies streamed from it. Grant began to writhe as the butterflies landed. I took a few steps to the side, aimed, and shot the chandelier's rope like a cowboy at a noose. The chandelier fell with a squeal and crashed into John. The creature released a demonic shriek before falling back. Away from Lenny. Purple blood bubbled out from where the chandelier had pierced. Lenny was frozen on the ground, but I pulled him up. May was gone again. "You're supposed to be the fucking professional here. Wake the hell up! That thing isn't John, remember?" I said. Lenny nodded and seemed to collect himself. "Think you can distract this thing for a second?" Lenny said. "I'll get my stuff to seal it like we tried upstairs. Do you know how to use that thing?" "Yes," I said, leveling the pistol. Lenny nodded and ran off. Carol was playing baseball with the coat rack in Grant's head. Looked like a few home runs to me. I turned my attention back to the other one. The thing before me, John, recovered after a few moments and turned its bloody gaze to me. It wore the chandelier like a bloody crown. Hi, I said. Its bloody smile grew wide and bright. Pointed teeth dug into its lips as it growled. "Smile, smile." I fired at it over and over. She said the eye, right? I backed up slowly as it crawled towards me. I fired as many times as I could, trying to hit the eye with the same accuracy I had hit the rope with. My ears were ringing after it was over. Soon all that came from the gun was a... Shit. I looked around, but I didn't really know what I was looking for. The creature leaned in. Smile. I interrupted it by throwing the gun at its face. It seemed more surprised than hurt, and that moment of confusion was just enough time. "Megan, catch!" Carol tossed me the other half of the coat rack. I fumbled, but caught it, and rammed the broken wood into the thing's eye. It squealed and flailed as blood streamed from its face. One of its arms hit me hard and I flew into a side table. My vision blurred and my ears still rang. My side hurt like a bitch. All I could do was lay there. I couldn't catch my breath until Carol was at my side. "Megan, are you okay? Megan?" I began to cough. Carol helped me sit up. She had knocked Grant across the room, but it had recovered now. John yanked the pole from its eye. Blood splashed out like a hole in a soda can. Neither looked too happy now. "Carol, what do we do?" I coughed out. Lenny finally came up to us. "Did you fix your makeup too? Maybe get a haircut while you were at it?" Carol snapped. "Quiet, I need to concentrate. Intention, my intention," Lenny muttered. He began reciting that mantra again, the same lines that he had used by my mother's bedroom. Grant was torn up and collapsed as if the body had given up. Only John was left standing. There was dark blood all over the place. My mother was going to need a new entry rug and chandelier. "What is Lenny doing?" Carol asked, voice on the edge of panic. "We did it earlier to seal Grant," I said. Carol glanced at Grant. "And how did that work out for us?" she said. "Quiet, please," Lenny said. John cried out in pain as Lenny used that salt shaker and Latin again. Its legs curled like a black widow's as its skin darkened red. It huddled into one of the nearby rooms. "Throw Grant in, quick!" Carol did as Lenny asked, and he slammed the door. "Get unbroken lines of salt near all the exits. That includes windows. That's probably how Grant got out the master bedroom," Lenny said. He tossed each of us one of those shakers from his bag. Carol went into the hall. I went outside. The night was dark, only disturbed by occasional street lights around the lane. I unscrewed the salt and stepped over the perfectly arrayed flowers. "Sorry, David," I said, and dumped salt on that room's windowsills. The window canopy just barely kept it out of the rain. I could see John inside. It seemed to have recovered somewhat and charged at the window I was putting salt on. Come on," I cried out as I finished the line and stepped back. A flash of light sent it backwards without so much as a scratch on the glass. It turned to the doors and charged, but the odd blue light shoved it back. It began throwing furniture in anger. I stepped back as I watched it thrash. "So, I see that you've made your choice." I turned to where the voice had come from. The suited man stood outside the front doors, blocking my path. "What do you even want from us?" I said, adrenaline overpowering my fear. "I only want to be free. That is all. All of you are so afraid, but we are no more monstrous than you." "Fuck!" A gunshot interrupted me. A bullet punched right through the suited man's skull and created a light shaft in the front doors. He bent backwards at an unnatural angle, swinging down like a punching bag, then stood. "I've still got it," a woman said from down the driveway. "Don't get too cocky. The night is just beginning," the man said, standing next to her. I knew the voices right away. Thanks to the lamps outside, I could see them. The man was older with short dark hair, blue eyes like cold winter. He wore some kind of military jacket. The woman looked similar, but younger. Same dark hair, cropped short, and the same blue eyes. They wore tactical gear and had rifles. They closed in on the suited man as they fired. The suited man's torso bounced every which way until he fell in a clump on the ground. They continued shooting until he was a pile of cloth and purple blood. They paused for a moment, watching. Then the woman walked over to me, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Hey, sweetie, you with us?" "Miles, get over here," she said. Miles watched the corpse for another moment before jogging over. "Hey, you're okay now. We're here. This is Miles. I'm his niece, Allison," she said. Miles shone a flashlight in my eyes. "She looks fine. I don't see immediate head trauma." "What's your name?" Allison said. "Megan. Is it really you? You're not one of those things just pretending, are you?" I said. The two exchanged a glance. "So you've seen what these things can do then," Allison said. "Wait, are you saying that the suited man transformed? Or are there instant 75D46s present?" "Cool your jets, Miles. She's clearly been through hell. It's nice to meet you, Megan. We heard that you were in need of some pest control," Allison said. The man sighed. It was that sound alone that confirmed it was Miles. "We need to know the situation," Miles said. "Wait, it's moving again." Both of them fired a barrage at the ground. The body of the suited man flung about, like mincemeat, until the two of them stopped. The pile steamed. "Megan, tell us everything quick-like," Miles said, still looking down his sights. "Yeah, okay, they have my sister, May. It's keeping her hostage unless I let the suited man out. There are multiple of these things, 3 total. The suited man, my mom's house butler, Grant, and someone Lenny called John," I said. "The suited man?" Miles asked. "That's what my sister called the red suit monster," I said. "John? That was the museum employee, wasn't it?" Allison said. "If that thing is here, then this is worse than I thought. What about the other one? Grant, you said?" Miles said. "Yeah, we think it was taking Grant's place to trick us. I saw it hiding in my mother's room. It kept muttering something about Morse infra," I said. Miles glanced at Allison. "Shit," she said. "Looks like there's one for each of us," Miles said. "Head count, by the way, is my sister May, my wife Carol, Lenny, and my mom's other house butler, David." Saying his name made me remember. "David was hurt really bad. He's inside." "Okay." Okay, take it easy. Just stick behind us and everything will be all right. We should get inside, Miles, Allison said. Miles nodded. They urged me behind them. I stood by them as they watched the suited man's body, still in between us and the front doors. We crept closer to it, closer, and stopped about 10 feet away. The night was silent. Not even crickets were near. How did it get your sister? Miles said. There's a hall on the 3rd floor, I said. It's where my nightmares take place, like I said on the phone. I found May up there hours ago. And even though I got her away from the black door, she didn't wake up this morning. Is she still breathing? Allison asked. Yeah, she is. You said something about a music box, right? Can you describe it to me? It's a silver... The music box is none of your concern, the suited man interrupted. There was a clammy hand on my shoulder. The red suit was still piled by the door, yet the suited man stood right behind us, too. Form B, Miles snapped. They tried to push us away from it, but the suited man grabbed me and held me like a shield. A cold seemed to leak from his hand and through my skin. Move an inch, and I'll enter, the suited man said. I have the shot, Miles, Allison said. Go on, Miles. Make the call, the suited man said. You need her as much as us, Miles said. I suppose we'll figure something else out, won't we, West? You always do, and I have all of the time in the world. I felt something tug on my shirt. I looked down to see May once again, face dark with shadows. Her face looked pale and gray. No one else acted as though they could see her. She put a knife in my hand. One from the kitchen? I nodded and waited for my chance. Is that true? You need me? I said to the suited man. I can always find another. I have May now, and we will be best of friends. Really? Because I've heard from May, and she says go to hell. I swung my arm back. Only a moment passed before I felt a piercing pain near my side ribs. I cried out, but kept my swing going until the knife reached its face. There was a sickening crunch as the blade went through the suited man as if through paper mache. The suited man dropped me and stepped back. He stumbled and grasped at the knife in his face. A strange bubbling noise came from him, as if he were gurgling ink. I was suddenly dizzy. I looked down at my side and saw blood where the suited man had attacked me. Shit, I muttered. That was when I heard several rounds of gunfire. The muzzle flashes blared in my peripherals. The echoing sound of the bullets started to dim. The lights were blurring. Eventually, they stopped firing. I was losing awareness. Carol appeared. Was I on the ground? Miles and Allison loomed over me. Megan? Are you okay, Megan? Carol said. You've had to ask that a lot lately, I said, with a sad little smile. Don't be stupid, she said. Fuck, he's not dead yet, Allison yelled, but her words were distant. Carol pulled me away as Allison and Miles closed in. Shit, where did it go? Miles said. How the hell am I supposed to know? Their words were all so far away. Hello? She's injured here, Carol said. That was the last thing I heard as I passed into unconsciousness. I woke up in bed. All of them around me. Carol, Allison, Miles, Lenny, and even David. The room was dark still, but my side was patched up. Look, I think she's up, Allison said. Megan, are you awake? Carol said. Megan, David said weakly. Hey, yeah, I'm up. David, you're okay, I said. I am. They patched me up too, but I'll need some time. Are you okay? I think so. I tried to sit up, but it didn't go so well. Allison gently pushed me back down. Whoa there, Tiger. Take it easy now. It's not as serious as we thought, but you should still take it easy, Allison said. It's good you're awake anyway, because we have important matters to discuss, Miles said. Miles, can't we go easy? These two have sort of been through hell here, Lenny said. No, it's fine. I have questions too, I said. What the hell are these things? Where did they come from? What do they want with us? That's all a long-ass story, Miles said. It'll take longer if you preamble it like that, Allison said. Look, we have answers, but what we know is dangerous knowledge to have. If we tell you, you might be putting yourself and everyone you know in danger. Danger from what? This company that Lenny talked about? Carol said. Miles sighed. You already told her. Well, yeah, what was I supposed to do? Lenny said. Seems that ship sailed. Thanks for stealing my chance to be dramatic, Allison said. We may as well answer then. First off, we call these monsters eidolons. They're better known as Instance 75D46, Miles said. Yeah, well, not everyone's a by-the-book berry like you. Plus, it doesn't translate well to the plural, Allison said. Why that name? Carol asked. That leads me to the second question, where they came from, Allison said. The first encounter we had with these things was in Italy, specifically when Delta Squad and I dug them up in a cave. We found ruins submerged deep underground. By our best estimates, the ruins can be tied back to Roman origin. Everyone opted to call them eidolons in reference to ancient Greek literature, but you would still be better off calling them by their classification ID, Miles said. Wait, you said that a squad dug up these eidolons? I said, glancing at the three of them. Don't look at me, I wasn't anywhere near when they found those things, Lenny said. Lenny came in later. He actually arrested my uncle at one point, Allison said. Right, Lenny told us about that, Carol said. Miles gave Lenny a look, and he smiled. Basically, Miles said, Allison was part of the team that initially dug these things up. We used to work for the company that initiated this dig. I was in Charlie Squad, the squad they sent before Delta, and I was arrested after trying to inform Delta Squad about what they were in for. They sent Delta Team there to die after trial and error 3 other times. Headquarters wanted to start up some esoteric rite. We believe that this rite is what awakened Instance 23S47D. What you call the suited man, Allison said. Lenny was the officer who arrested me along with Jonathan Cartman, who was then hired to be a night guard at a museum the company owned. They were using the museum grounds purely as a middleman to smuggle these instances across the country. John was killed by an Instance 75D46. I wouldn't be surprised if the company was also testing its abilities there with expendables. So how did you end up working with the guy you arrested again? Carol asked. Like I said before, I tried to warn John because Miles showed me all of the evidence. I only wish I had listened sooner. Plus, he nearly shot me when I approached him, Miles said. I'm sorry, did we forget the part where you're a fugitive? Lenny countered. Anyways, Allison interrupted. Anyways, that thing that pretended to be John earlier, that was the one that killed him. It can take over bodies and objects, which seems like a trait that isn't unique if one took over Grant, Lenny said. As for your last question, we don't know what they want, Allison said. We could guess, of course, but we just don't know. Clearly, whatever they have in mind is dangerous for us, to say the least. We weren't sure how to fight these things at first, but that's when we heard about people like you, people that can interact directly with them in some unique way. People like your mother, who managed to seal it away. We need to find out how she did it, Miles said. When I spoke with the suited man for the first time, he went on about intent, I said. That there was no specific ritual involved with releasing him, that it was just my intent. Could it apply the same way? Allison, Miles, and Lenny exchanged a look. Maybe so. These eidolons have influenced your nightmares, even your daily senses, right? Allison asked. Yeah, they've been obsessed ever since we came here, trying to get me to play the music box for them. Though I realize now that even while I was a few states over, the suited man was following us, I said. Carol ran a hand along my back. Why did you come back? Miles said. My mother sent me a letter. She said that she was sick, that she needed me to watch the house. But when I visited her at the hospital, there was a point where she seemed like herself again. Instead of angry, she was worried to see me there, as if she hadn't asked me to come. Why a letter and not a phone call? Miles said. She didn't like phones, doesn't use them. That settles it then. It was instance 23S47D that brought you here. Some of the instance 75D64s can use the phones, but if it had called you, it wouldn't have been able to pretend like it was your mother. Their true voice is what comes through, Allison said. We heard and saw you shoot it 1,000 times. It seems like you can't kill it like that, so what do we do? Carol said. We don't know much about the suited man, but we've learned a few things as we followed it around the country, Allison said. It seems to have a lair each time. That was the case back in Italy. It had been set to sleep with some kind of rite, until it was woken up with sacrifices, Miles said. They completed it even though Delta Squad escaped, Allison said. By rite, are you talking about the thing that Lenny did? I asked. Sort of. We can seal them into areas. We didn't know why it works, but if the suited man told you about intent, that might have something to do with it, Miles said. It seems that the stories were right in some ways. You can seal demons with salt and Latin, Lenny said. Allison chuckled. Miles frowned. All of this to say that we need to find its lair. It can move its lair, but it takes a lot of effort for it to move. Do you have any idea where its lair might be? Allison said. We thought for a moment. Megan, didn't you say that you saw the suited man in your mother's hospital room? Carol said. Yeah, but I saw him in the hotel too, and at home. Its lair must be in the upstairs hallway, right? The room it's locked inside? We went up there to see if we could hunt it down, Miles said. There was nothing up there. The end of the left hall upstairs only has a storage closet against the wall, Allison said. I glanced at Carol. But you were up there with me. You pulled me from the hallway, I said. I didn't get a chance to tell you. I found you leaning against the wall upstairs. I didn't see another hallway like you described, she said. That means that there's only one way. We hoped that it wouldn't come to this, but we need you to dream tonight. Confront the hallway in your dream. Who knows where it will escape if we don't stop it now, and it seems to be the only way you can get to it, Miles said. Or where it could bring your sister, Allison said. I have to trap it for good, I surmised. We think that if you had opened the door in your dream, you would have unleashed that thing. This might be the only way to save your sister and your mom, Allison said. Seems like the only way. I can fluff your pillows if you want, Lenny said. That thing was making me choose, I said. If I close it in, it might keep May in there. Imagine what destruction it would cause if you... Miles's rant was interrupted by Allison. She slugged his shoulder and stepped forward. We don't know that for sure, but if that is the case, we understand if you choose your sister. However, if you let this thing out, we don't even have the ability to fathom what it will do. Allison glanced at Miles with each emphasis. I stared off at the floor. Thinking about having to confront the nightmare again was as scary as it had ever been. Save May or release the suited man? If I do have to choose, which would I? What would May want? Fine. I can do it, or I'll try anyway. Do or do not. There is no... Ow! Lenny said, stepping away from Allison's punch. Is now really the time? She snapped. We'll keep an eye on the idolins around the house. Try and clean some of this up, too. Lenny can give us the rundown. All right, then. It's time to move out. You two, come on, Miles said. Allison and Miles left the room. Allison gave me a last smile.
I'll go too, Megan. Carol, take good care of her,
David said. Carol nodded, and Eleni helped David walk out. They closed the door behind them. How am I supposed to sleep on command? I've been having trouble all week, I said. Don't think about it. Let's just lay here for a minute. She lay next to me, staring at the gaudy canopy over the bed. I could hear a distant clock in the hallway. Do you remember at our wedding when you threw the bouquet? Carol said, as I laid on her shoulder. I chuckled despite myself. Right. That raven swooped down from nowhere and snatched it. That's what I get for putting a silver ribbon in it, I said. I wonder if that raven is happily married now, Carol said. We both laughed, and I did forget it all, if only for a second. Everything was so odd, so strange, but in that second, I felt like nothing could touch us. Perhaps that's what helped me finally sleep. I laid there in peace and started to think of May. We'll get her back, Carol said. We'll all be right here when you two wake up. That was the last thing I heard before I fell asleep. My nightmare started like it always did, but this time I felt more awake in it. I heard the music box circling my consciousness like a whisper.
Into the lion's den.
The suited man said. Megan, I'm sorry. This is all my fault. I was in a hospital room. My mother's, to be exact. The edges were dim and vague, but I could see my mother lying there. Why didn't you tell us? I said. How could I? No, it was just better for you to stay away. I had already wronged you so much in your life. I needed to keep you away from here. I'm so sorry, Megan. Her words felt distant yet so near. I couldn't think of anything to say at first. I need to know where that thing's lair is, I said. Are you sure? You could still leave. It doesn't have full influence on you yet. Let it die with me. It took May, Mother. The suited man has May. The heart rate monitor beeped quicker. No, it's my fault. All my fault. I'm so sorry, Megan. I'm so sorry. It's okay, Mom. This is all beyond us. I'm just glad that I know the truth now. She smiled at me and placed a hand on mine. I've been so absent in your lives. I've missed so many milestones, and all for my pride. I'm ashamed now that I ignored my own daughter's wedding. We even had creme brulee just for you, I said with a sad smile. My mother nodded. Carol is a wonderful person, and I know that you two are lucky to have each other. I was a coward. I couldn't set myself aside, and I was jealous in a way. Our father and I were arranged after all. It's okay, Mom, I said. We all forgive you. I'm glad that we could share this moment. I still have a connection to it. I can show you its lair. Please, save May. Save May. Suddenly, her face took on a look of agonized fear as something seemed to twist in her. She raised an atrophied, shaking arm, her skin thin and sickly. I followed her gesture. Where the wall once was, that long stretch of gray hall had appeared. The wallpaper peeled, the plants curled and dead, with only a black door at the very end. Someone stood there, facing us from afar. A disproportionate man of red, pale face concealed in thick shadows. That song grew from a whisper, notes jangled and broken. The music box, Mother said. Be careful. Save May. Please, save her, Megan. It's okay, Megan. I looked down and saw May holding my hand.
Let's do it together.
May, how do we get you out? She smiled.
The music box.
Her and my mother said together. Are you okay? I said.
Yeah. It's dark in here, but I could still feel you and Carol near me. I could hear you, but... Megan? Yeah? Maybe we should trap the suited man instead. He's too scary to be let out. I've seen what he wants to do, May said.
We began to walk. Purple butterflies circled around us, lighting the space as we went. Walking in dreams always felt odd, slow, with no progress, but soon the hall engulfed us. The butterflies seemed to chase away parts of the darkness, but the closer we came to the suited man, the more twisted everything became. The hall seemed to stretch and groan like a living thing. The paintings seemed to watch as we passed, and we finally reached the door. The suited man towered over us. You don't want to do this. Do this. He said, countless voices repeating his words. And why is that? I said. Must I spell it out for you again? If you try to interfere, I'll take May and your mother forever. There was a lot of struggling and blood for the same deal that I offered you to begin with, but I'm generous. I will give you one last chance. Free me, and I will leave your family out of my plans forever and forevermore. None of us even know what you are. How can I trust you? I said. My promises are binding. Do you remember your tales of demons? Where do you think they come from? Or the true forms of angels in your Bible? It was us. Always us. No God, no Yahweh. It has always been just us. We've been quiet since those times, trapped, but now we will be free once again. Free. And what? Am I supposed to just let you wreak havoc on the rest of the world? The suited man smiled a wide, mad grin. In a sense. But don't get the wrong idea. If we simply killed all of you, what would we have to feed upon? No. We will be quiet, creatures of mist. No overindulgence like the times of old. We have learned from our mistakes. Our actions will be nothing more than odd mysteries left unsolved. You humans can go about your little lives in peace. The butterflies flickered like fireflies. The hallway moaned as it churned under our feet. Dust fell from the ceiling. The music box seemed to growl behind the door. I never possessed your mother, you know. Not like you were thinking, the suited man said. I simply made her forever be herself, the self that is always shouting in the back of her mind. It was what she brought upon herself. I could end it if you wished. Don't touch our mother, I said. You'll leave her alone as part of our deal. The suited man tipped his head in a bow. Your wish is my command. I looked at May. I looked at that thing. I thought of what I had seen behind the door. I squeezed May's hand. The suited man twitched. May's butterflies fluttered. The purple light around us was bringing life back to the hall. The color returned to the wallpaper. Plants grew greener. I didn't understand any of this, but I had a feeling. I knew that I could hurt it. Do it, and May will be mine, the suited man said with fear. That's right. Fear. It was afraid of us.
We can't let him escape. He's a bad man,
May said. Fear settled in my gut as the doorway loomed over us. I felt like a kid again, like I was looking at it from far below. Parts of the thing, the suited man's true form, oozed in retreat from the purple light. I could make out the inky details of the monster in that room. I studied the wings and the countless eyes set upon those wings. I saw the many limbs, the head hiding behind the dangling light. I knew now that I was presented with the choice. I had to step inside or shut the door, save May or end the suited man. I stared. My hand shook as I reached out. The music box played its sickening tune as voices whispered around me. "Save May. Save your sister," my mother pleaded. "We have to stop that thing. Who knows what it can do," Lenny said. "Is she still in the dream?" Miles said. "Miles, the wards won't hold much longer. The Eidolons are getting impatient," Allison said. "Just give her some more time," Carol said. "We don't have any more time," Miles said. I thought about May. She'd always been left behind, forgotten, even by me sometimes. How must she feel? Always locked away with no one to help her. I was tired of making her feel that way.
"It's okay, Megan. I'll be fine," May said. But she was afraid. That fear in her eyes made the decision for me. All of that thing's eyes were on us. My hand that held May's shook, and we stepped into the room. I reached for the table. The suited man smiled. Epilogue. I sat up in shock. The bed was surrounded by Carol and David. "Megan, you're awake," Carol said, and gave me a hug. The curtains were drawn over bright light outside. "How long was I out?" I said, groggy. "Almost 12. The door flashed open. "What did you do?" Miles snapped, marching towards the bed. "The 2 trapped instances are gone. What did you do?" Without a word, I got out of bed and went to May's door. "Hey, I'm talking to you," Miles said. I opened the door to my old bedroom and saw where May laid on the bed. She was leaning against the headboard, wiping her eyes. "May!" I ran to her side. She returned my hug. "It was so scary in there. I know we shouldn't have, but I don't want to be alone again," she said. "You won't be. Never again, okay?" Miles stood in the doorway. "You let him escape, didn't you? Do you even know what this means?" "It just means we'll have to track him down again," Allison said. "We've done it once, Miles. We'll do it again. Come on, we have work to do." "Wait," I said. They stopped. "This is what I chose, and I get that there will be consequences, but you said that May and I have a connection to these things, right?" "Yes," Miles said. May and I got up. She studied me for a moment, then nodded. "We'll help you catch the suited man," May said. Miles studied her, then me. "Fine, but this is a dangerous road. In order to end this once and for all, we'd have to take the fight to headquarters and the suited man." "There aren't very many of us," Allison said. "Only a handful of people other than us 3. David leaned into the room. It looked like he had rushed to get to us, despite his injuries. Lenny caught up. "He just ran after a phone call," Lenny said. "Megan, it's your mother. She's..." My heart sank. May squeezed my hand. "She just passed away moments ago. The hospital called just now." Miles looked at my surprised face. "I'm guessing that it broke your deal?"
he said. Looks like your suited man just spit in your face. I walked the house for a time afterwards, with May holding my hand. Miles was right. John had disappeared alongside the one that had killed Grant. We found both human bodies in the room. We buried them on the grounds. May and I went upstairs to the 3rd floor. The hallway really was gone. There was only a closet door against the wall, as Allison had said. I opened it. Inside, on the single shelf there, was a music box and a purple butterfly doll. The music box was silver and stamped with a golden moon.
Don't worry, Megan,
May said.
We'll stop the suited man.
Find me in the trees as I walk this road. Find me
Thank you for listening to Whisperwood Stories.
in the
I hope that you enjoyed this series. And if you did, please be sure to comment below and let me know. Thank you for listening to the whole story. That's quite impressive. It's a long one. Good on you. Do you have a story that you'd like me to read here? Consider commenting or sending it to whisperwoodsubmissions@gmail.com. The story in this video was still read with my permission, but we'll see how I go. I'm on thin ice with myself. Thank you to Same New Rhythm for writing the music box theme for me, and have a happy Halloween. Want to support me? Check the link below where you can leave a tip if you wish. And remember, don't let the shadows get too close. Good night.
look